and I'd like to introduce you to the first keynote speaker this morning, Dr. Peter Cochrane. Peter is one of the world's most respected and sought-after speakers in technology, change, and the future effects of change on corporations and individuals. He's the former head of research at British Telecom. In his career in BT, he saw him progress to the position of head of research and CTO with a 1,000-strong team engaged in studies spanning optical fiber, fixed and mobile networks, terminals and interfaces, artificial life and healthcare, through to wargaming, e-commerce, e-retail, e-logistics, and business modeling. So he's pretty much done everything. Peter's PhD was pivotal in helping BT to decide to go all digital and all optical in the 1970s. Since leaving BT in 2000, Peter has been involved in the startup sector as an angel and a venture capitalist. He has also spent time in academia as an educator, and that should be of some interest to some of the audience members here today because they come from different educational institutions. He was appointed as UK's first professor for the public understanding of science and technology in 1998. Renowned for his out-of-the-box thinking, Peter is the author of over 1,000 blogs, articles, and scientific papers, and numerous books on the future, technology, business, and management. And in conclusion, for those of you who might or might not have some concern that, is Peter really aware of the Indian situation? Let me tell you that he's been consulting with Indian industrialists for the last several decades. He and I were just talking, and he talked about his assignment with Mahindra. So you can rest assured that when he speaks to you, he speaks knowing fully well of the environment that all of us work in. So his ideas will be as practical for all of you as for anybody else in the world that he has addressed. So without much further ado, let me give you Dr. Peter Cochrane.
Ladies and gentlemen, this morning my job is to help you think about the cloud in perhaps a different way. Let me start by just asking a few questions. How many of you are working in the cloud right now? Oh, that's very encouraging. That's quite a good proportion. How many of you are really worried about security in the cloud? Okay, I think we've got a good common base on which to work. So let's start from here. The biggest problem in the cloud is getting managers and organizations to think differently. If we continue to do what we've always done and we progress straight into the cloud, it will be a disaster. It will not work. And I'm going to explain to you why, and I'm going to explain to you how we get out of that. So here are some of the force vectors that are pushing us into the cloud. Sustainability is not achievable with this PC on a desk and the old ways of working. The costs will continue to rise out of control if we don't do something different. Innovation will stall without the cloud. And accelerating technology is now way beyond the ability of any IT department to keep up. Most organizations are slowed down and held back by IT department, followed very closely by the security department. Their job is not to help you, it's to make sure that they have a reasonably easy life. And that's got to change. And part of this problem is now the bring your own device world of young people doing new things, not caring much for what IT or security people say. And I would suggest to you that IT departments and security departments are failing badly. We've never had such a dire situation from a security point of view. We need our workforces to be flexible and mobile, and we need them to change with the technology. They've got to be able to work from home, work from wherever they happen to be. They've got to be able to use the social networks and tools, and they've got to be able to work in a dispersed mode. No company, no organization can now muster all the expertise it needs to keep ahead in any technology. It's become a dispersed world. So the era of sitting at a desk using a corporate PC is coming to an end really quick. And it's being replaced by a different kind of world where the people own the machines. The PC has never been a personal thing. It's been a corporate machine, or it's been an educational machine. And I would suggest to you that a personal computer is personal in the same way that socks are. It's something that you own, and you wear your computer almost like you wear your socks. So here we have this computing power, this creativity, this capability coming to you and I, the individual, not towards the big corporation. From a user perspective, people are struggling, and I go to offices and organizations, and I watch very, very capable people achieving 10% of what they could probably do because the corporation is stopping them working. They can't get online and use the applications they need. They can't get the resources they need. The technology they're using isn't really up to par, and it leads to intense frustration and a lot of lost capability. And that's a world that cannot continue. The other big driver, everywhere I go in the world, governments especially, are seeing huge IT programs fail. The biggest one probably in the world was the UK National Health Service deciding to put all of its information on a single database. It was a dumb idea in the first place. It would have been much easier to give every person in the UK a memory stick and let them look after their own data than to try and marshal it all onto one database. It made no sense on day one, but you know what? There was not a single manager on that program who had ever written a line of code or knew anything about IT. That's the kind of problem that we've got to change. So,
For being here.
let me just ask a question. How many people here know about IBM Watson? IBM Watson, Jeopardy. Oh, not very many. Okay, I want to show you a new paradigm. So here is, in essence, the problem. A medical doctor will go to school and have a year as an intern and a total of 7 years to become a doctor. At the point they become a qualified medical doctor, 50% of all the knowledge that has been imparted to them during their course is now irrelevant. The half-life of information is extremely short. So here is a solution, a machine developed by IBM, and it starts 3 years ago with a game show in the United States called Jeopardy, where three contestants would be answering questions. They would make money by getting the questions right. The questions are general knowledge. This is the first time IBM Watson, a machine, goes onto the show and contests the prize. It's kind of interesting. Let me run this movie for you.
For being here, what do you say we play Jeopardy? Let's get right into the Jeopardy round. These categories: a man, a plane, a canal, Erie, Chicks Dig Me, children's book titles, My Michelle, MC5, and finally, vocabulary. Ken, you're in the first position. Please make a selection.
I've never said this on TV. Chicks Dig Me for 200, please, Jimmy.
Kathleen Kenyon's excavation of this city, mentioned in Joshua, showed the walls had been repaired 17 times. Watson.
What is Jericho?
Correct.
400, same category.
This mystery author and her archaeologist hubby dug in hopes of finding the lost Syrian city of Urkesh. Watson.
Who is Agatha Christie?
Correct.
Same category, 600.
At the Olduvai Gorge in 1959, she and hubby Lewis found a 1.75 million year old Australopithecus Boise-eyed skull. Watson.
Who is Mary Leakey?
You're right.
800, same category.
Harriet Boyd Hawes was the first woman to discover and excavate a Minoan settlement on this island. Watson.
What is Crete?
Yes.
It just goes on like that. So here we have a machine. This is way beyond Deep Blue winning Kasparov at chess. This is a machine answering general knowledge questions better than any human being. Now, the Americans have taken this forward and they're throwing it at the medical profession. And what we're now finding is machines are able to diagnose human illness better than any human being. And what I'm going to suggest to you is this technology is coming to you and I as a tool, and it's going to come into the cloud, and every profession is going to rely on it. And here is the reason why. 30 years ago, I was struggling to read all of the technical papers that were being published on the subject of optical fiber. We had to start dispersing the read so that people could actually give a presentation if they found something interesting. That problem has just escalated. I cannot keep up with trends any more than you can. So here is a short movie of the reaction of the medical profession to this technology.
Watson is a tool that processes information, fills in the gaps of human thought, doesn't make the decision for you. That's the realm of the clinician, or the clinician in combination with the patient. But bringing you the information that you would want to have anyway to make that better decision is what Watson will do for you. Now, we're in a situation where the providers will benefit, the patients will benefit, and our technology is going to support them.
When I was watching Jeopardy and I saw Watson play Jeopardy, if you actually watch that Jeopardy episode, at the bottom of the screen, they provided the different answers that Watson came up with. So Watson didn't just come up with one answer. Watson came up with multiple answers. And each of those answers had a certain confidence level. And as a physician, I was thinking about it. And this is exactly how physicians think. Because when I see a patient, there's usually not just one answer. There are probably 4 or 5 answers. But I tell the patient what the answer that I think has the highest confidence.
Watson's capability to analyze huge volumes of data and reduce it down to critical decision points is absolutely essential for our ability to improve on our ability to deliver effective therapies and to actually disseminate that information to the world.
Okay, that's it in a nutshell. So there's a wonderful scene in artificial intelligence where the robot says, but I'm intelligent, I have dreams. And the human says, robots are not intelligent, you don't have dreams. Can you write a novel? Can you take a canvas and create a wonderful picture? Can you write a symphony? And the robot looks at him and says, can you? I don't care whether this thing is alive or it's intelligent. I'm an engineer. Just because I don't understand it doesn't mean to say I can't use it. This is incredibly powerful. That one line, it has the power to take immense amounts of information and condense it down to a decision point, is the very essence of the machine. So here is an interesting graph that's pertinent. How many people are in the cloud? How big a business is this? And right now, as best I can estimate, we're at about 600 million people in the cloud. And in the next couple of years, it'll be about 1.5 billion people. Most of these people are in the United States, and they're in the UK, not so much in Europe, and not so much in the Middle East, and very sort of thin in the Southeastern Asian region. It's starting to take off. It's kind of important that we understand. It's difficult now to get raw data. These are subscriptions, but some of the subscriptions are devices, and they're not people. It's stuff as well. It's machines and things in the cloud. And this is what we've got to try and understand. So what kind of things are going in? For us to achieve sustainability, we're going to have to create new industries. Sustainability is not about changing the light bulbs, it's about doing new stuff in a better way. If we make our existing industries more efficient, we will not succeed. It's about materials technology, and it's about the coming together of nano, bio, artificial intelligence to create new things. And those things are going to be recycled almost 100%. The energy use is going to be minimal, and to do that, they've got to be tagged and they'll be in the cloud. But for now, we've got cars, food, tools, offices, homes, clothing even, appliances and consumables. And We've come from this barcode kind of existence to chips, and the challenge has been to get the tagging down to the right price, which has now occurred, and some sectors are really getting far ahead. The American military, for example, have got by far the most sophisticated logistics chain and tagging system and tracking and stuff in the cloud of any military in the world. The oil company, aerospace, and even retail are now getting well into this. And so we have these challenges of how we're going to manage it. So change is the big deal. So can we identify the biggest movers and shakers? Where is the drive coming through? And I'm going to put it to you, this is where it comes from. Even 15 years ago, I met a young lady who was 7 years old who had never in her life connected her laptop to a piece of wire for anything other than power. And why would you? And now I see young children go to a television screen and do this, and then look for a controller. And I even find myself doing that on my laptop, feeling like an idiot, and I've got the wrong machine and the interface is slightly different. But gradually, I'm not connecting anything by wire anymore. I'm operating in the cloud, and I'm having to do it by installments for a very simple reason. The bandwidth on this planet is largely asymmetric, and the world of the cloud is a symmetric place. Try uploading a small file, say 350 megabytes, on an ADSL line, a domestic broadband line at half a megabit capacity one way and perhaps 8 the other way. It's untenable. But these young people are operating in this kind of world. They're the driver, and they now see all of this stuff as the norm. And what is more, continual change is something that they've grown into. Whereas you and I, and business, in some ways are reeling with the amount of change that's in front of us. This is becoming second nature to a generation. They are looking at the technology in a different way. They have different aspirations, and actually they have no respect much for the old world, if you like, that we work. And so they don't have a screen. They have a multi-screen world. They don't sit at a machine, they carry one. They don't go to work to do work. They go to work to be disturbed. They go home to work, and they go to a coffee shop to work. They don't even have a single operating system or application set. They're quite comfortable to flip from one OS to another. And perhaps worst of all, they don't give a zip about you or I or our companies. They really do not. They're going to get the job done. And if you ask the question, where's a lot of the innovation coming from, it's quite surprising that simple things like texting and instant messaging and games and the MP3 market were not driven by companies, they were driven by young people. The social networks were driven by young people. And they become industries and very big. The whole of the apps revolution has been driven by the young and not the big companies. So, let's just dig a little deeper into the whole world of work and security and connectivity and the risk and the opportunity and see where it takes us. This is more than cutting the wires, and it's much, much more than business as usual. It's changing a lot of stuff. And I want to just try and broaden the discussion a little by saying this. The cloud's not singular, it's plural. There are many of them. It's not solid, it's entirely vacuous. It's not fixed, it's mobile. And it's not necessarily permanent, and it's almost certainly transient. We've never had this before. This is a difficult target to hit. And what can it be? Corporate, commercial, government, personal, global, local, people, things, open, closed, visible, and it can be invisible. It can be all of that stuff. It's not just a thing. By the way, anybody taking notes rapidly, trying to copy all of this down, please stop. At the end, I'm going to give all of these slides, and what you're going to get is a URL. It's up on SlideShare. And there's about another 20 slides that I've added on to help with the understanding. Also, just to help you with the note-taking, if you have a problem, I'm going to be here all day, and you can email me later, and I will answer questions or help if I can. This is something I've been saying for a long time. It's counterintuitive. The cloud is inherently more secure than anything we've seen before. It's more resilient than anything we've seen before. It is more cost-effective. Best of all, it's more empowering. It lets people free. We've got rafts of tech-savvy people coming in. They come hardware equipped. They're going to be with you for as long as it is interesting, and then they will move on. And the question is, how do we empower them to contribute to your business while they're with you in the most effective way? They see IT as personal, and they work in strange places. How many people here work in coffee shops? Is there anybody here who works in a coffee shop to escape their company? I only go to my office to be interrupted. I can't work there. I go to other places. I work on airplanes and in hotels and in coffee shops and at home, but I have to escape. But these people are creating very fast and innovative companies, and they'd rather do that than work for yours because you're going to give them a boring job and they can't be creative. That's the challenge. And this is what I think is one of the biggest risks. I walked into a company the other day, they were tearing their hair out, and the question was, we've got some malware, we can't figure out how it's getting through the firewall. And the first desk I come to, there's a young man sat there with his corporate PC and his own laptop, and he's busily moving a memory stick from one to the other. So forget about the firewall, it's not the firewall, this is where it is. Trouble is, you've got about 30 young people doing this. One of them's got an infection and he's spreading it from the inside of the firewall. And that is the danger. So this sort of practice is very worrisome. This is what we've got to combat because this is going to continue. It's not going to go away. It's the mode of operation. So we have to think differently. Social network is their vital tool. How many people here use social networking actively? Again, that's probably half the audience. So we've got about a third of the audience in the cloud, half of the audience using social networking. What's surprising is there are one or two young people who put their hand up. I think we better have a coffee afterwards. Another one that's very common is that the young people are not using email, they're using text and instant messaging, and they're working in new ways. And it's worth studying and looking what they do, because the other aspect is they don't hide anything anymore, they share it all, very often in an alarming way that we might consider to be insecure. But one of the questions we have to ask is what is the half-life of information that people are sharing? Very often, stuff that IT departments and security departments are trying to secure has got a half-life of about 5 minutes. It's not worth even trying to make it secure. It's a waste of time. So this represents a new, flexible workforce that can really add a lot of value to the world. And if we hold them back, we will slow down progress. And the question is, how do we accommodate all of this to everybody's advantage? And I'm going to suggest to you that in large part now, innovation is moving to the periphery of the network. It's being ripped out of the heart of the large corporations who are no longer doing it. For example, the telcos are no longer doing research. They're watching other people do research, but the multi-million-dollar budgets that they used to have gone. And there are actually very, very few big companies now that are doing basic research. And the basic research is going to interesting places. This young man at the top is representative now of over 1 million young people on this planet who are doing genetic engineering at home or in a small laboratory with 1 to 5 people. Some of the best modeling companies in terms of human interactivity and safety are now less than 5 people. There is, in this area here, a very interesting bit of biological activity that I've put up because people actually think it's real, it's actually a simulation. And this printer, this 3D printer, is the latest of a series of trying to get the cost down. What fascinates me is that all the big boys on paper printing, on 2D printing, are not in this 3D sphere. And it could be that Epson and HP are going to be the new Kodak. It could be that they will be the new Kodak. I went to visit a leading architectural company recently. They had 4 top-end 3D printing machines creating buildings to put on models on plans. So Boeing aircraft, perhaps not a good example of the problems we've got at the moment, are actually printing over 300 of the piece parts for the Dreamliner. The American military have now put 3D printers on the front line because it's easier to ship the designs than it is to ship the product from America when you want to repair things. So I'm going to contend, and the academics are not going to like this, but actually problem solving is now becoming more important than a piece of paper that says you achieved some academic attainment. That world of academic attainment is now being questioned because even education itself is becoming distributed and available online in large measure. And what companies are starting to really value are the people that can solve problems, create products, get things to the front line, get sales, solve problems. That's where the action is. So the management attitudes to all of this and the operational practices have got to change. And they've got to change radically. So now let's talk about security. And I'm going to explain why I think the cloud is such a wonderful place for creating a very secure situation. Today, we have never seen so many attacks, such sophisticated attacks, and such a weak response from the industry. Industry looks like a sitting duck in terms of the attack that is being mounted by the dark side of the force. We need far more than firewalls. We really do. The people are the number one risk, always, and yet when you go to a security conference, this is recognized but never discussed, and that's what we've actually got to address. The great thing about cloud working and the way that new companies are forming and operating is that there's no hierarchy. It's actually very difficult for someone trying to penetrate an organization finding that there's no hierarchy. It's very difficult to find where the information is. Where's the leader? Where is it stored? The cloud is flat. It's not hierarchical. If you build a hierarchical cloud, you're in for trouble. You're making it easier for the bad guys. Build the cloud very flat. How do I decide where the important stuff is? It's very, very difficult. How do I decide in a flat organization where the key people are? Very, very difficult. So cloud computing comes with all these degrees of freedom to improve our security. No single log-on device, no single location, variable log-on routine, distributed applications, filing system. We can pass and distribute the data. We can use multiple clouds at the same time. Dynamic cloud creation, inter-cloud encryption. We get very, very strong security, very, very cheaply, because we're distributing it rather than concentrating it. Delay is on the side of the bad people and not the good people. Their biggest opportunity is the time it takes us to detect that we've been attacked, effect some kind of defense or repair, and to repel further attacks. That's the opportunity. We have to reduce that time. We have to reduce that time drastically if we are going to improve security overall. A moving target is much harder to hit. A very low-profile target is also very hard to hit, and that's what we've got to achieve. The cloud is dynamic in almost every dimension. It can also be very low and flat, and I'll give you an example. My company is very small. We don't want to waste a lot of money. So how about going out there and getting, right now, 5, 7, 10, or even 50 gigabytes for free of 10 different companies, and then spreading our data all over those. That makes it very difficult for people to find the key stuff. Makes it very difficult indeed. So the half-lives of knowledge and info are getting very short, but so is everything else. That's making it very difficult for the bad people to attack and get at us from any electronic dimension. Let's just amplify this. This is the reality. There isn't a cloud. They're dynamic, and there's many of them. There are multiple providers. That's great, because they can have different operating systems, different encryption standards, different points of access. There can be tens of different servers and databases. We can change our log-on routine. We can be fixed or mobile. We can be multi-moded. We can use different operating systems and locations at the same time. And we can come in from a device on multiple networks. That's making it difficult for people. So these are the components that we've got to exploit. It makes us much, much more secure. We can't help it, but one way or another, when it comes to security, we're all incredibly lax. I sometimes get paid to break into companies. I never use electronic techniques. I always go for the people. Let me tell you how easy it is. I can walk into a building with a security pass. I can open up a Wi-Fi and find it's secure. I can take my pass off and put it in my pocket, walk down the corridor, knock on a door, pop my head in and say, "Excuse me, folks, anybody here using the Wi-Fi?" Somebody will say, "Yes, why?" And I say, "Well, I'm having a bit of, you need the password," and they tell me. That's how easy it is. Or, if I want to do something devilish, I can just leave the memory stick in the gents room. Within 20 minutes, someone will have picked up that memory stick. Within 2 hours, it's in a machine, and electronically I'm in. It's that easy. It's that easy. So here is a different slice of the problem. I do hope that my bank has not taken my banking information and put it on one hard drive, on one machine, in one physical location. I really do hope they're not that dumb. We can do much better than putting it in 3 different locations. What we can do is we can take the data streams, chop them up, not necessarily in regular lengths, but irregular lengths. This confuses the enemy because usually the enemy would say a big file is going to have a lot of information. So we can actually have lots of little files, all of variable length. They can all be encrypted to different standards, and then it can all be put with different customers and clients and people providing cloud services and different machines. Now, crack that. That is incredibly difficult. The dark side loves a monoculture. They have had a wonderful time with Microsoft operating system being dominant on this planet. How easy they only have one kind of target to attack. What a wonderful time they've had. Now that's starting to fall apart. Multiple operating systems becomes a nightmare. But then they go for the most commonly used application set and come in that way. If we continue to present a uniform target, then we deserve all we're going to get. The cloud, perhaps, is the ultimate variable target set. It is not the same everywhere. It is static. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to break up this monoculture and change it into something that's much more variable. So distributing files all over the globe, all over servers, is possibly the most secure thing that we've had available to us since we started with IT, and it can be done par excellence in the cloud at very low cost. So there are now some big questions to ask. The question is, do you see your IT and security departments as being in the big league? Can they cope with the sophistication of the new threat scenarios? Do they have the same ability and resources as IBM, Google, SAP, Cisco, Microsoft, Apple? Do they? Or are they in the little league? Because I think that's where your IT and security people are. I think they're preoccupied by office upgrades, LAN provision, old services and operations. That's where they are. They're either unsure or unaware, but mostly they're blissfully ignorant of what is happening. In actual fact, there's a great place for those guys to go. They should be working on big data. They should be working on modeling. They should be working on decision support rather than wasting their lives on something that can be outsourced. A lot should go to the big companies who are specializing in this area and can do a really good job for you. So, the security threat, who is it? It's no longer some kid in a bedroom. If your company falls prey to some kid in a bedroom messing around on a PC, you deserve all you're going to get. I mean, it's really the amateur league. It's no longer the hobbyists we've got to worry about. It's the big business, the professionals, and worst of all, government. Let's just put some numbers on it. Can you imagine? Imagine in terms of not computing power, but just in terms of money. How much money could a kid in a bedroom muster? Supposing it was $10,000 in a bedroom attacking a company. That's one thing. Then ask the question, how much would a criminal organization throw at it? Probably several millions. And then ask the question, how much would a foreign government throw at it? And you're probably looking at several billions. That's where the threat is. The very largest pieces of software created on this planet have been created by government. They come at the tune of $1 and $1.5 billion a piece. They're incredibly sophisticated, and they are to do with security and stuff. So that's where the big resources are. As everybody's heard of Stuxnet and Flame and that sort of stuff, yeah. If you lift the lid and look inside Stuxnet, it's incredibly sophisticated. At the time, it was the most sophisticated attack software anyone had ever seen. Absolutely brilliant piece of development work. The really frightening thing is, now you can get a copy of that for $10 and you can download it. I suspect you'll get a knock on the door from the CIA about 15 minutes later, but you can actually get a copy, and we ought to be worried about that. So fending off this kind of threat demands more capability than individual corporations and small companies can muster. And we have to think in terms of creating industrial scale solutions. And I'm going to suggest to you that the only people that can do that are the industrial scale companies, and even those are going to have to collaborate in the future to seal our fate in terms of security. Here's a prognosis for you. I think the DIY companies, the DIY, the do-it-yourself people, the people who insist that they are going to continue into the world with their own IT and their own security people, are just going to die. It's only a matter of time before they're overwhelmed. How many people have read this book? It's worth reading. Yeah. Read this book? It's kind of interesting. Goes back a long way. Some very interesting one-liners. This is more contemporary. But if we're going to go into a war, we better be prepared. We better get the resources in place. We better muster everything that we can. And I'm going to suggest to you this morning that the cloud is the first opportunity that we've had to put together an absolutely stunning defense against the dark side of the force, the bad people on this planet who want to wreak mayhem and secure their future by destroying ours. It offers us the most potent defense, and it's also the most creative path forward. So be prepared. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. We have now got a little time for question and answers, but what I'm going to do is just put this up as I promised. Let me just get there. There we are. The slide set is here for you to download. You can either go to Cochrane.org, go to presentations, or you can go to SlideShare and just click down. It's about 24 megabytes of stuff. Download it, and please use as you so wish. So, questions, ladies and gentlemen. Has anybody got a question? Probably too early in the morning. Sir. I think there's a microphone coming for the questions. If you could just please announce your name and organisation, that will help the rest of the audience.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. I'm Satyan Gupta from Internet Service Providers Association. Basically, this was very, actually, sort of eye-opener for me. But only thing what I fail to understand, or you try to explain, is that how the cloud can be more secure than the traditional way we do that. That is, my doubt still remains that. So you're trying to explain that, if you can.
Okay, well, I can only really do this by analogy. If you want to get shot in a war, wear a red coat and stand up. If you don't want to get shot, put on some camouflage and lie in the mud. And this is about camouflaging information, being very low profile and not standing still, keeping moving. It's also about putting up false targets. There is another presentation on my homepage called Super Secure Clouds, and the other dimensions for this are to put up honeypots. Another one is dynamic addressing. In the way that we do spread spectrum in the radio spectrum, we can do the same thing with the URLs. We can change the addressing access by access. So we can be really quite deadly. That, by the way, is the technique that's used to protect the Apple music site, and it's the reason it's never being penetrated. You can't hit it. It keeps moving all the time. So I just see the flexibility of being able to do that make it very, very difficult. I mean, relatively speaking, there is never any security. It's all a relative thing. All you can do is make it more and more difficult for the enemy, period. There's always a likelihood that there's going to be some kind of penetration. The biggest problem right now is that every single machine and every single device in this room has got malware on it, and we can't find it. It's also got backdoors on it, so we have to think it again.
Thank you. My one add-on question is regarding the reliability part of it, actually. Like normally people doubt about the cloud's availability, uptime, reliability. Like when we get to a dedicated kind of network, so do we get the same kind of reliability here, especially for critical applications like government and defense applications?
That will only occur if we engineer it well. And we can only engineer it well if it's thought through, designed, and built to a given standard. My biggest problem with it, personally, is that I can never find enough bandwidth in the up direction to allow me to use applications all the time online. I have to carry a lot of my material on my machine because I cannot be sure I'm going to get bandwidth everywhere I go. To give you an example, to get that slide set up there took me about 10 attempts. And I was starting to wonder if I was hitting some kind of outgoing firewall because I couldn't get it to load. Mostly in the UK, it goes up the first time, but it's slow. The hotel I'm in here, it's kind of interesting, there's 6 megabits both ways. but I couldn't get the thing to load, and it wasn't until about half an hour before I came here this morning I managed to load it up, because I desperately wanted to have it available for the audience. And it was just difficult to get it to load up. And that uncertainty is something that detracts from my confidence about just putting absolutely everything in the cloud. Because this morning I had half an hour spare, but that's not always the case. I look after a reliable operation. But I can't think of a single system that we've rolled out that's been perfectly reliable on day one. They always evolved towards that reliability. So my suggestion is that we go into the cloud in some respects gently.
Thank you.
Microphone over here, please.
Hi, Peter. Peter.
Oh, one over there. Gentleman with the microphone's over here. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi. I'm Shiva. I'm from Progressive Infotech. So I head the cloud services business there. So what happens, I meet a lot of clients on a daily basis, explaining them what cloud is. So I explain them on the Amazon, Microsoft, and Google cloud as well. So after convincing them on various concerns that they have, we finally come to two major concerns, in fact. One is the lock-in concern that they have. They think that they might get locked into a particular cloud and they won't be able to come up. So I even, convince them by saying that they should have a good entry and exit strategy so that they have the peace of mind that they can come out of cloud anytime they need.
Yep.
But however, when it comes to security, I just have two trump cards. One is I say them that encryption feature, and the other one is obviously the data centers are not known to even the CIOs of the companies. Only the chief security officer will know. So do you think can I use any other apart from these two, the encryption and the data center thing? Can I use any other way to convince these ways? Because I do understand this. We are still in the process of educating the IT scenario, IT managers in big organizations.
Yeah.
But do you think can I use anything else to?
I hear all those arguments, and one of the most fallacious ones is, how do I know I can trust a provider with my information? How do I know that my information is going to be secure? And I ask people these questions. How do you know where your banking information is, and how do you know your bank will look after your information? Or the telephone company, or the health system? If we start going down that line, the whole society collapses because it's all built on trust. The good guys trust each other, and in actual fact, the penalty to you for losing my data would be vast, because I would go out on a social network and tell everybody in the world, you lost my data. But you don't want to lose my data. And it's one of the things that absolutely terrifies phone companies, mobile companies, and banks. Losing customer data is about the worst thing that can happen to you. That aspect about confidence, can I get in and out? Will I have access? Will there a man-in-the-middle attack of my login procedure and all the rest? And the answer to that is, well, that's there anyway. So what's new? You're already suffering that. In the cloud, we can make it more secure. And I think there's another dimension. It's something that drives me nuts. I'm an engineer. I've designed systems. And I delete applications where I need a training course. If something demands that I have a training course to use it, it's badly designed and I don't want it. If I find an application or a service that is difficult to use, where I don't have confidence or I'm struggling, I delete it and I go and find one that I can live with. This is evolution writ large. This is the evolution of the most friendly, the easiest to use, the most reliable, the most confidence building. And all I want you to do, if you're providing me with the cloud, is to please give me an interface that I can use intuitively, and please don't lose my data, and just look after me, and make me feel confident that I'm in a safe place. And I'll be with you forever, because it's so much more difficult to go and do something else. And I think you're absolutely spot on. But I have those discussions all the time with big companies, exactly the same discussion. And a lot of it is an old mindset. I sometimes say to people, I'm only 9 years old in here. It's the outside that's not 9 anymore. But it's the way you look at life and the way you grasp the opportunity and say, gee, what can I do with this? I look at this technology and think, the power. I want IBM Watson. I want a supercomputer on my desk. I don't want to be carrying a machine that's making my arms longer, that's hurting me, that's big. I want to put all that heavyweight stuff into the cloud, but I want the power of a supercomputer in my hands. Quite literally, I can have that in the cloud. And as an engineer, when I'm trying to design something, we had a very funny discussion, a couple of us down here, while we were putting all this together. And I'm a little bit older than some of the young guys from Cisco, and I was relating to them that when I was a student, I would write a program, and I would send it to Manchester to a computer to run, and it was one of 5 computers in the whole of the UK at the time. A week later, my results would come back, and very often there would be a note that said, did not compile, which meant that you had to do it again, and it would be a 2 or 3 week turnaround to get a program working. It's inconceivable. My children can't conceive of that world, nor should they. That's gone. But what I can conceive of is having Watson on my mobile phone, where I can get the answers to questions, and having modeling programs on my laptop that allow me to solve really difficult problems for customers. That's where I want to be. Access to everything, and the capability of the world in my pocket, please. That's the dream. And I'll buy off you. Sir, sorry, what's the...
So,
yes.
I'm here.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my name is Amit Tiwari, and I'm technical head at Think INC. So my question is that, as you have discussed about security at user end, so sir, is cloud computing providing and security at the server end? Because the target of if anyone want to attack on the company data or something else, is not going to access as a user. He is probably going to attack on the server system. So is there anything which provides security for the server system?
Yeah, dead easy. I'm not putting all my information on your server. I'm going to put some of it over there, some of it over here, some over there, some over there. If they want to attack and take it, let them unpick it, because what they're going to find is partial information. I'm not going to put sufficient information in one place that allows them to decode what I'm doing or what my key things are. So I would suggest to you that there's an interesting business put together where you collaborate with several people.
Let's say you want to say data decentralization. That means
Yes.
I want to distribute my data on different servers.
Yes.
But sir, suppose I have to gain some access codes, and I have particular source that I will get from this server only. So what can I do for that thing? Please elaborate.
Here's the biggest challenge we face. Basically, we're good guys, and we find it difficult to be evil. But we have got to be even more evil than the enemy we face. So I'm quite happy to come along to workshops and be evil for a day or two, trying to take apart or break down any kind of security scenario that we put up. And I suppose it's unfashionable, but it is strictly wargaming. And I give you an example. When I was in British Telecom, we had a 500-strong security team defending the company, and I set up a 40-strong security team to act in the opposite direction and attack the company. And I went and found the youngest, most evil youngsters I could find and gave them the best computers and the best network, and they broke into the company. And the reason I did it was that just out of curiosity one afternoon, I thought to myself, I wonder if I could break in. And I could. I don't know anything. And as a manager, I thought, well, if I can break in, then really good people can, so I put some good people together. And I would suggest to you, that's the sort of scenario we've got to put together, is to get these companies, especially in India, who are working together to put cloud services, to come together, look at what you're doing, and then have a go at attacking it and see how you would break in. Security is always relative. It's never 100%. There is always a way in. And the question is, can we figure it out and block it before the bad boys discover it?
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. Sir.
Hi, I'm Prasad from Premier in India. I'm the director IS for this organization. When you talk about the cloud, have you ever come across the legalities of the cloud hosting or the cloud service? For example, being in India, if I try to host some of my application in US and Amazon, AWS, so which legal, what is the legal binding? Is it the US legal binding or the Indian legality which is going to assist me? Or
That's a cracking question, isn't it? the legal profession are always way behind the wave. The legal systems are always about words. And in my small mind, I always think that it's a question of you and I picking out the right words, confound them, and then doing what we really want to do without going to jail. And it's a challenge. And the answer to the question is, I don't know. And I'm watching giant corporations break the law all over the place. I'm watching governments, and for example, one German company would like to put its information outside Germany, but has been told by the German government it has to keep it all within the German borders. At the same time, one of the companies I've been working for is hosting all the data for one of the biggest German banks. Now, how the heck did they do that? How come a giant industrial force in Germany can't do it, but one of the banks did do it? And I think it's the form of words. The lawyers want to hear something, the government want to hear something, tell them what they want to hear, and then somehow, I don't know. I'm an engineer. I have always found it's easier to beg for forgiveness than for permission.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Sorry?
Here. Yeah, myself, Himanshu Gupta. Good morning to everyone. I want to ask one question regarding the cloud computing. Actually, I want to ask that when we talk about the cloud computing, obviously we talk about the wireless communication or wireless network. We know that there are a lot of wireless or a lot of security threats are there, and we know that we can provide the security services in form of confidentiality, where we are providing the encryption techniques, various encryption techniques. We can provide the access control, we can provide the data integrity, we can provide the non-repudiation services. So I want to ask one question, that in cloud computing, in which application or in which device or tools we can provide all these services for the effective and secure communication?
I can't see why we can't do it for all of them. I really can't. Let me give you a really topical example. I've been working with giant corporations for a long while, and I have in my pocket somewhere my mobile phone, and I don't have to tell you who make it. You can see who make it. I go along, and 4 years ago I'd bring out my iPhone, and there was all these guys with, my age, a little older, a little younger, having to put the glasses on to use a BlackBerry because they'd still got hard keys and they're very small. I have bananas for fingers. I'd have to get a needle to press I couldn't hit one key, I'd hit 4. I can use this. And the argument in the corporation is, this is insecure. You've got to use a BlackBerry, that's secure. So throughout government departments all over the world, there are people using BlackBerries, and they're not allowed to use these. Then all of a sudden, something magic happened. I was actually present when the director of a company almost nailed the IT guy to the wall and said to him, I don't care what the arguments are. You can have this BlackBerry back. This is my iPhone. Your job is to get my iPhone to work. Now I'm finding government people even, and lots of people in corporations using smartphones without the security of the BlackBerry, and they're using iPads and other kinds of tablets without the security that was once proclaimed necessary only 2 or 3 years ago. Now, how has that occurred? What is happening? Somebody's smartened up and realized that the chit-chat that is text and instant messaging and email is actually very difficult to make sense of without the a priori knowledge of the background. If you sent me 3 lines on a project and I came back to you and said, that sounds great to me, I think that we can get that within the budget, what does some spy from another company make of that without the context of the rest of the discussion? So that's the way I tend to look at the security. And has this thing been accessed by somebody? I would have thought so. Ask yourself the question, where are all these devices made? Where are all the chips made? China. Now, in the defense industry, you don't go building a missile without building in a default mechanism so you can remotely switch it off, because the people you sell the missile to today could be your enemy tomorrow, and if they are, you switch their weapon system off. I can't believe that this hasn't got a back door into it. I cannot believe that my laptop has not got a back door into it. I cannot believe that all the software I have doesn't come with some back doors into it. So I think I'm wide open. So what's my defense going to be? Well, I've got a version of the cloud on my laptop, if you like. Find my information if you can. And one of the things is this no hierarchy. Let's imagine 80,000 people in a giant stadium, and one of them is a billionaire that you want to get for ransom. How the heck do you find them? How do you locate them? I mean, if they're in the country club, that's easy, but they're in a football stadium, it's very, very difficult. So my laptop is like a football stadium. So let me give you something that's really psychologically difficult for me, and you probably had the same experience, although you're a lot younger. You are born, and your mother at some point says to you, put your toys away, put your clothes away, be neat and tidy. And you go to school, and it's put your books in a nice pile and file things so that you can find them, and have a filing cabinet. And when you get a laptop, what do? You have folders, and you put things away. Why do we do that? We've got a find function. I mean, one of the best defenses is a uni-heap. You just have everything in a big heap. Now try and find it. Because you can use a find function with obscure designators, if you wish, to find your file without putting them in a file on their laptop that says government secrets, or my banking information, or all my passwords, useful files like that. And it's sort of counterintuitive. And so I think from many aspects, there is a huge opportunity here for people who are well into the world of software, who are providing software services for the planet, to say, we will provide super secure cloud services because we will manage the storage and retrieval of your data, your information on your devices in a way where it will be, as best we can make it, impossible for the enemy to get at it. And that seems to me one of the biggest opportunities that we're actually looking at this morning.
Do we have time for one more question?
One more question, certainly.
Hi, I'm Lalit. I work for Institute for Research and Development in Banking Technology. I have two questions. Part one, like ISACA or Cloud Security Alliance, they have their recommendation, cloud security. Are there any recommendations from you on each of those, or do you suggest something else? The second question I have, for application security, we have tools like HP Fortify, FXCOP from. Are there any tools or toolkits that are available in the market that can take care of some of those unanswered questions?
Okay. Personally, I think security standards are an oxymoron. Okay, I really do. And are there any useful tools out there? Absolutely. The snag at the moment seems to be finding them. And mostly they're coming out of small startup companies. And in my lifetime, it's been kind of interesting to go from a corporate world where you had a problem and you did research and development and you got a product and you made it. And now what is actually happening is the large corporations are continually combing the startup field, looking for small companies with really good solutions, and then they're acquiring them. And the way I find them is I'm really well connected into the venture capital world. And I put a request out, a flag, I'm looking for this, and someone will point me to a startup company. And all I can tell you is that I stumble upon, by that mechanism, some absolutely wonderful security companies and software. Let me give you one. We've just got 30 seconds. I'll give you one. The biggest problem we have is we're habitual. We can't help being habitual. We do the same stuff all the time, and it's hard for us not to continue doing the same stuff. So if you're looking for the insider threat, what I would call the needle in a needle stack problem, you know, you're looking for either a bent needle or a needle that's about to bend. How do you find them? Well, in actual fact, if you monitor their behaviors, it very quickly becomes apparent that they become bent or they're starting to change because they start to do things that they've not habitually done. So if you monitor somebody's behaviors, and if we keep it strictly to the keyboard, and you say, what time do they log on? How do they type when they log on? What do they upload? What do they download? How many emails do they do? How much creative work do they do? And so on, day by day. If suddenly they're starting to download 4 times as much and upload 10 times as much stuff, the question to ask, what are they doing? You're looking for that exception, that change in their habitual activity. And I stumbled across a company that did that. And it's been bought by a venture capitalist. But it's absolutely brilliant technology of solving a problem that the security departments have never actually addressed, the insider threat. So I would suggest to you that you go out onto the startup scene and have a look there. And if you find somebody, you let me know, because I'd appreciate it, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a fabulous audience. I do hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. I am going to be here all day. I'll happily speak with any of you. Please download the slide set. If we don't get to speak and you have a question, just email me. Sure, I'll give it to you.